Chicka brown cow. Hey, listeners, welcome to another episode of the Wisco Weekly Podcast. I am here on site at the Las Vegas Convention Center, hanging out with two gentlemen that I'm looking forward to absolutely getting to know not only just them as a person, but their company as well. Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome to the podcast Marco Schnabl and Napoleon, i.e. Napo Rumteen of automotiveMastermind. Gentlemen, thank you very much for being on the podcast.
Thank you. Thanks, Dennis.
Thanks for having us.
So first thing I thought I would start out with, so to give a little background here, I believe, okay, this is just going to be my personal, and of course this is my podcast, so I can do what I want to do, right? But I believe that you guys are up to something that's really special. I think some of the data that you guys are starting to put forward and collecting is pretty magical. I mean, I was looking at your, the behavior prediction score based on 1,000 criteria. And seriously, one night I'm like, how many criteria can I name off? And I could probably name off 50. On a probably good night, I could name off 150, but you guys have 1,000, you guys use 1,000 data points and criteria. So you guys are collecting so much data on customers. So I'm curious, with all this data you guys collect, what does the future of automotive look like to you guys?
Well, great question. I mean, that's a loaded question we can spend some hours on, but the future of automotive retail, in my opinion, is going to keep the dealerships at its core. People like to interact with other human beings, and the data is only there to make those interactions much more smooth, easy. And when you think about a consumer today, in many cases, they come to a dealership or interact with a dealership and are much more educated than have ever been before. So what we're trying to do is give the salespeople a chance to be highly educated on the consumer and give them all the right talking points on what really matters to that one single customer so they can focus on what they do best, that's building the relationship. And that's what's going to matter now as well as in the future of automotive retail.
I'm glad you're advocating for the relationship, because I do think that's it's often overlooked in the eyes of technology, where it's like anytime a dealer can put a widget on their website, yeah, that's supposed to make things easier on them. So, but the relationship is paramount here.
Yeah, it's a very emotional purchase still, right? And even with car sharing and different ownership models, the automotive will always remain the second highest purchase somebody will do in their lifetime, or ownership in their lifetime.
Well, so I'm curious here too, Marco. Obviously, you came from the dealership world. What was the aha moment for you that triggered eventually automotiveMastermind?
Yeah, actually, Napo and I both did, and we pride ourselves in the company with the fact that the majority of our team members are automotive experts and have gasoline in their blood. The aha moment, so I started my career in Germany and then had a chance to come into the US and continue my career in a dealership in New York City, in Manhattan, Mercedes-Benz store. It was an incredible experience, selling cars, interacting with customers of all walks of life. Was just wonderful. But the aha moment was really understanding and realizing that the sophistication level of the engineering in a vehicle is highly sophisticated, but when it comes to the retail process and the retail environment, there's a lot of unsophisticated pieces still in place, and it's cumbersome. Right? When you look at the experience a customer has when they come to a dealership, it's not always great. Everybody is trying to do their best they can, but the fact of the matter is that it's very hard actually to sell cars. It's not as easy as you would think. You got to build a relationship, you got to build trust, but you also got to combine thousands of different data points to come up with the right proposal, the right offer, and the right storyline to interact with our customer. So that is the aha moment.
Napo, for all these data points that you guys have, are there some of, as you guys have been around now since 2013?
Yes.
So are there particular data points that are starting to show that are more important in this process now?
That's a good question. I'd probably say the most important data points that show are the ones that are most important to individuals.
Interesting. Okay.
So what's happening, the shift in paradigm in the auto industry is, whereas you had set options for consumers, has modified. 20, 30 years ago, it was very easy to pick a model because they were limited, and it was tough getting numbers. Now, it's kind of flipped the other way around. Consumers can get numbers and figures. It's kind of tough to pick what model they want with crossovers, hybrids, etc. And so consumers have preferences. And we see this beyond the auto industry, right? You see this with Amazon.com, you see it with Netflix, you see people being served up related information based on what they either watch or they purchase. Very similar with the automotive industry. And so when you ask about the 1,000+ data points, the most important ones come down to the individual, their lifestyle, changes that have occurred in their lifestyle, preferences, and I think what makes our company special is our ability to take that information and pinpoint it down to the individual with significant accuracy, and I think a lot has to do with the resources available for us, and a lot of it, quite frankly, is the amount of focus and energy and resources we allocate towards doing that by way of the human element as well as technology.
So if we can, let's dive a little deeper into this. How does it, so I guess a little background. I had a very, very brief experience with automotiveMastermind at an Audi store, and so that's where I was like, interesting. It's interesting what was going on.
As a consumer or as a
dealer?
As a dealer.
So yeah, I worked at a dealership level. So now we were using it more for retention purposes. So I can connect the dots on how automotiveMastermind really benefits on the retention end, but please tell my listeners what is the best way for customers to understand, or let's say dealers to understand how automotiveMastermind works on the customer retention end.
Yeah, so maybe I'll take this one. Let me tag on to what Napo said here. So we take, specifically for retention management, we take and we start with the dealership's management system, the DMS. We extract all that data, we clean it up, normalize it. There's a lot of work that goes into that just to get the data right in order to start our process. And then we combine it with a multitude of external data sources that could be as simple as trade books, incentive data, product data from the OEMs, market data, but then also consumer-specific data. So we're looking down to the household level. Where does somebody live? Household income level, social demographics, social media aspects. Where do they work, yes. Right? We look at the email address, for example, and to give you, I was telling somebody from Wall Street Journal this morning how we think about, for example, predicting someone that worked for the military. So we would find out that someone has USA insurance or a military link on their profile or in their email address, and that would allow us to qualify them for a specific OEM manufacturer military incentive. Now, the military incentive does two things, right? It's a monetary driver because you now get, let's say, $2,000 on a particular vehicle that the OEM qualifies you for, but it also honors your services for the military. So if I'm the dealership, and if it's the verbal outreach that the dealership can now do by picking up the phone and calling their customers, relating that information, or if it's our direct marketing, the marketing automation services that we have that are absolute benchmark in the industry, that specifically to you as the consumer mention the fact that we're honoring your military services with a specific incentive, that drives your behavior, your likelihood of buying a car even more, right? So it's a psychological aspect of you being honored for your military service, as well as the monetary aspect of getting a better price on the vehicle. And we do this this is just one specific example that you were asking. We do this on a multitude of different aspects and assign every customer in their DMS a score that we call, you mentioned it earlier, the Behavior Prediction Score, the BPS. And that score is a simple ranking, although the analytics are complex. It's a simple ranking from 0 to 100. The higher that ranking, the more likely it is that the consumer is going to buy a car. The lower it is, the less likely it is. And then we break down that score into all of these different drivers, behavior drivers. One of them, you're getting a military incentive for your military service, we're honoring you. And that is one talking point, one driver of the algorithm, one driver of the score that makes it so simple for any user of our technology to identify who to go after.
Is there, do you have your own accuracy score of that BPS? So, if a buyer is showing, or a prospective buyer is showing an 88, now over the course since 2013 till now, how good is that score now?
Yeah, so the algorithms have changed over and over again, and we're actually implementing machine learning algorithms. And just to simplify that, and I'm not the technologist behind that part of the company, but to simplify what that means is we ultimately learn from every transaction. So if that 88 BPS score is buying or not buying, it will make our algorithm, our prediction smarter next time. Now there's one important factor in there that we always need to consider. It's the human component of the sales representative. You can be a 100 BPS, which is almost a guaranteed sale, but if I wake up in the morning, I had a terrible night, I didn't sleep well and I'm hungover or whatever it is. Even as a German, you might get hungover once in a while.
Well, it's Oktoberfest every
day,
yeah,
every day, especially when you're in Las Vegas. But you might interact with a customer and ruin the opportunity of that sale. Whereas you come in and you're absolutely enthusiastic, you're hyped up, you're pumped up, you can close a 60 and make great profitability for the dealership on it and yourself.
So not every day, I'm sure, within the company is wet-nosed puppy dogs and rainbows. Have there been, or can you paint for me scenarios where you guys have learned from challenging situations?
Sure, absolutely. I mean, anytime you're trying to sell something, it's overcoming challenges. You obviously have goals that you're driving to. You want to convert. You want to make deals, and the challenges that exist have a lot to do with timing. I think timing is very critical, whether it's for a consumer buying something or a dealer selling, and we've been able to calibrate our technology and our processes constantly from our dealer feedback. We use a platform internally that when we get dealer suggestions on improvements, again, whether it's by way of technology or processes, immediately within minutes, we push this information throughout our internal organization, and our decision makers, executives, everyone gets a chance to see these improvements, and immediately we start working on it. And to make sure that we are trying to maximize the experience that our dealers have and our consumers, the consumers that buy from them.
And so throughout this, of receiving dealer input, you guys have launched a new product at the show here. Go ahead, tell me a little bit about that, Napo.
Yeah, you mentioned that earlier. You mentioned retention business. Yeah. So we're definitely going beyond just retention business. We actually have the ability. There's a great aspect to our technology where it's a household demand indicator, and it's signified by an icon, allowing the dealer to know that when there's an opportunity for multiple buyers in that household, other buyers. Simplest way I can say it is in retail, there's saying repeat and referral business, right? There's really no science to referral business. If you happen to be a good salesperson, customer had a good experience, they like you, next time they're at a party, when they take a car home or to go to work, they might refer you business because the conversation comes up organically. The Automotive Mastermind, we're able to take this down to a science and look for opportunities where there's referral business, and that's really helped our dealers get additional sales of customers that haven't bought cars from them in the past. And now at NADA, we're really excited about the unveiling of Conquest, which you mentioned, which is pure conquest, where a dealer has not sold this individual a vehicle, and they're not servicing with them, may not even be the same brand, and we are able to predict the likelihood of those buyers within a certain window and a time frame, and deliver to the dealers with high accuracy, the highest in the industry at this point.
Yeah, and maybe just to add to that, so we've been leading the retention category since we really entered the market, and we're so proud of that. We have some of the best dealers in the country working with us, and have really established the baseline for what good retention management should look like, and augmenting that with our people, processes, and our technology has been incredible. So now we're taking that recipe and applying it, as Napo was describing, to the conquest world, right? Retention management is the core. It's the bloodline, the lifeline of each dealership that wants to sustain itself. But in order to grow, you need to find fresh business. And we got acquired. We're part of IHS Markit as of last September. an incredible company, an information company that we are just so proud of to be part of now. And IHS Markit and their category or their subsidiary called Polk Automotive has been collecting all transactions, all registration data for decades. As a matter of fact, they have every sales transaction registered for over 120 million households in this country, representing over 3.4 billion registrations. So that is a significant amount of data that we can now use for our existing customers, allowing them to use our algorithms, our technology, and our marketing automation for markets that they have an influence over to go after conquest customers. So this is what Napo was describing, right? They may have never been to your dealership, may not even drive a car of your brand. We can now precisely approach them, speak to them, and bring them to our dealer partner store to make them their own retention customers. So that's huge.
That is huge. I mean, I think especially when you combine all that, the support that you get, if you call it support or leadership from IHS Markit, with everything they can bring to the table, with everything that you guys are doing, your automotive expertise, that's certainly a recipe for huge success. Now, when you guys first then started, did you guys start more at the OEM level, and then now you have more of a strategy to target dealerships, or was from the start you were targeting both OEMs and dealerships?
Yeah, so we work with both players in the market. Ultimately, we have mostly dealerships as our main customers, but the OEMs see tremendous value, right? We bring technology to their dealerships, to their dealer partners, that helps retain customers and win new customers, and that's just something the OEMs endorse very highly and also support financially. So we work with 16 brands, OEMs right now, most of which either send us data, share data with us, and or subsidize our fees. So what typically, or what has happened historically and what is happening now, is that new OEMs, learn about the success that other brands and OEMs have been having with Mastermind, or their dealerships have, and they approach us then and say, how can we leverage and launch Mastermind with our company, with our dealerships? And that is a bit of a process, so we're not necessarily a one-fits-all type of company or technology. We don't want to be. We want to provide an incredible product and service to each OEM and each partner. And if you think about buying behavior, going back to that, a Toyota buyer is a different buyer than a Mini buyer, than an Audi buyer, than a Mercedes buyer. So we very carefully need to adjust all of the different input factors to our algorithm for each OEM, and then also understand what other data sources we can feed in. So we don't want to just give this to everybody and then have mediocre success. We want to remain the best provider, best technology in this industry.
So let's say even if you're looking at a luxury store, a Mercedes-Benz store, they're obviously going to be selling used cars as well. Sometimes those used cars are going to be maybe sub 15,000, 20,000. Are you even getting into that kind of granular level that within a store, your behavior prediction score can start to assign to a customer that, okay, this person is shopping, but maybe not for the $50,000 E-Class, but they could be looking at a used car within my store?
Yeah, so every customer that sits in your DMS gets absorbed into Mastermind, and a big piece of that customer portfolio is sometimes dormant. If you think about what does that mean, you have the last 7, 8, 9, 10 years of data, and there's customers that have long left the dealership or long left the brand, and those customers can be new car buyers or they can be pre-owned buyers. Regardless of that, we would be able to predict them, combine them with current data that we found in other data repositories, and then come up with a prediction score to help the dealership still address a customer that may have already left the dealership. So most dealerships have come a long way and are doing a fantastic job with lease retention, lease maturities. We're going far beyond that. I mean, we're going far beyond lease customers and finance customers. We also look at your cash buyer portfolio, and that's something dealerships unfortunately spend very little time on, we still find.
So, one thing that I couldn't really look up specifically was there was no easy definition of who is Automotive Mastermind. It talks about what you guys do. Who is Automotive Mastermind?
It's Napo.
It's Napo. I mean, you had mentioned that you don't want to be pigeonholed to just doing kind of this one thing. So there's obviously a more grandiose vision. I mean, is there? I mean, I guess what category would you say that you're in? Are you a data company? Are you
We have defined a new category for the automotive industry. I mean, look, behavior prediction. Think about Amazon, Netflix, right? We're all users of that. Have been using predictive analytics and behavior prediction for maybe close to 8, 9, 10 years now. There's companies that have been doing it a lot longer, mostly manual, but none of that has ever been applied to the auto industry. So we are really the first to define a category of behavior prediction, and our solutions that we provide to the industry are augmented by that core predictive analytics.
So that is the core of what you guys do there. So I read that in 2016, you guys, there was $23 million in 2016 that you guys attributed to sales, or that you guys contributed.
That's right.
Do you guys have numbers for 2017 yet? Or have a forecast?
I mean, we grew rather rapidly, and last year was another record year for us. We have now 1,200 dealerships live on the platform, another 100 waiting to go live, and last year's revenue was slightly north of 50 million.
That's impressive. Now, and kind of looking out on behalf of the dealer, I'm sure one of the questions that will always be lingering is you guys are growing at such a rapid pace.
Yep.
How can you guys support your dealers, your existing ones, and going beyond that?
Maybe Napo, you basically ran dealer relations. I want to say one last financial aspect that will help answer that question. How do we support it? We invest everything into our company, to our product. So the 50 million we made were completely reinvested into our company, into our products, into our people, and then some, right? So we are not a profitable business. Because we believe we got to reinvest.
I actually love the fact that you said that stone cold, but in a very passionate way. Sure. This, you really do mean this. I love that.
And Napo, you should talk to it. I mean, Napo spearheaded dealer relations for us. So please.
Yeah, no. I met Marco in December of 2014, and I think at that point.
Were you guys working at the same store then, or what? How did you guys?
No, Marco had started Automotive Mastermind, and he was actually pitching our dealer group. And I think at that point we had 60 dealers in December, and he came personally, and it was, looking at the technology, I loved it immediately. I just was curious how well it would work, and in the first month it did so well. We put it in a bunch of our stores there, and as we started talking, I could sense the passion in his voice when he talked about how important it is that we're still in a people business, especially with regards to retention. We have to stay in touch with our dealers. We have to see our dealers. And I completely agreed, and I have a training background as well in automotive, so that was music to my ears. In the car industry, we have a saying, when you see a vendor, it's usually twice, when they sign you up and then when they send a cancellation notice. And that was not our MO at all. And we worked together collectively to build our dealer relations team. So our team, we have a hashtag internally, never a vendor. We're a dealer partner, and we're in their success as a partner. And so our dealer relations team are committed. They have a small portfolio of accounts, not 150 dealers, not 80 dealers. They're maxed at about 25 dealers, 20 to 25 dealers. So they get to know them really well. And when they go and do a performance visit or a workshop, they customize it for that dealership, and they're in there all day. They're in there from morning until evening. They spend time in team group environments where they're coaching and training them, one-on-one training, helping make phone calls with them to connect and set appointments, and also just really being there as support. And we do this constantly. And even from hiring these individuals, they go through 8 rounds of interviews, email simulations, video testing to make sure we bring in the right quality of personnel that have had the automotive retail experience, SaaS experience, and can be seen as an extension of the dealer's management. So we're very proud of that, actually, and I think we do that well.
It's again impressive of the comprehensiveness of the support operation and some of the people you do like to bring on. I think one of the things that I find to be very relevant as we move forward in the automotive industry is, I'm starting to see how a lot of dealerships are moving towards, on one hand, this one price, and also not going with commission-based salespeople, but going with hourly. And it seems like then an automotive mastermind tool is a nice, it's a nice bridge before they make that final jump to whatever that next step in their car dealership business is. Who has the access to the dashboard? Do you guys call it a dashboard? I presume you do.
Sure, yeah. I mean, the dashboard's a 10,000-foot view of the overall portfolio, and as to the answer to that is it's customized to every dealer. We know nationwide dealers have their own processes, their own system of operations, and it's I draw an analogy to sports and football. You can win the Super Bowl with a great running game, a passing game, a strong defense. It's a matter of execution. And what makes what we do special and truly a dealer partner is we meet with the dealer and we understand the processes that they run. Nobody knows a dealer better than, and their customers better than they do. And we've seen best practices nationwide. So we literally have multiple rounds of meetings. We talk to them. We come up with best practices that fit and blend with what it is they're doing, what they want to improve, so that when we install and launch, we're all speaking with one voice.
And so you have the Conquest product that you guys are launching here at the show. Is there another big initiative that you guys are cooking that maybe in the next couple of years that dealerships can also perhaps see, maybe customers may see?
Yeah, there always is, and there will be there will be another great reveal shortly after Conquest, where we're gonna improve even further the way consumers will and can engage with the dealership. But that's for the next podcast.
Last question here. So with the 1,000 touch points that you guys cover, give me some insight on what are some of the more like innocuous touch points in there. I mean, I can think of, again, credit score, income, payment, term, visits. Like what would be some of the other things in there that most people would not think about?
So part of people will think about it, but I think the example I'm going to give has a bit of a different outcome than people may expect. So another part of our now new parent company is Carfax, which I would assume every dealer and certainly consumers are very familiar with. And we work very closely with Carfax to get basically all of their raw data into Mastermind, allowing dealerships to review and understand the customer in their database even better. So one of the things everybody always says, what's on Carfax? Well, somebody had an accident, right? So we clearly can identify that, but how does that impact customer behavior? The first thing people might think is, oh, that trade is worth less. Well, but even if the car is not necessarily worth less, or if it has a very little or no impact on the equity position of the vehicle, it has an emotional and psychological impact. Whereas 60% of all people that have been in an accident, even if the car was fixed, within the 18 months following the accident are looking to replace their car, and it has a highly reduced price elasticity, meaning a customer is very much willing to pay more for a new car, but knowing that the vehicle hasn't been in the accident, hasn't been damaged. So that I thought it was always a pretty significant driver, and it speaks volumes. I mean, this is not always, and I think we in the industry, and Napo and I, as you know now, we come from the industry, we always try to race to the bottom. And I think by building value, by building good relationships, you can ask for a higher price. I mean, if it's all about lowering somebody's payment, it's pretty simple to figure out where that's going to end up, right? At some point, you got to start paying the customer to have him drive a car. And I think by providing great service, honest service, being genuine, building relationships that are based on trust and transparency, dealerships will succeed. And we try to make that success as easy as possible by providing all of the different data points that they need to have an intelligent conversation and focus on what we do best in the industry, and it's build, human connections, build trust, build long-lasting relationships.
Yeah, Dennis, I'll tell you, to Marco's point, I've been surprised at how many people are motivated to get into another vehicle, and it has nothing to do with what the new numbers are, what the new deal is. There's so many other motivating factors that are so related to the vehicle, lifestyle changes, that most people think equity mining, it's all about the deal. It isn't. It has so much to do with the vehicle, lifestyle change, and it's not just about the numbers. And a lot of people move to a new vehicle for other reasons than just figures.
Well, gentlemen, thank you very much, actually, for all that insight that you shared about the company. Certainly, I will be following you guys along to see how you guys progress and develop and how you guys tackle things like ride sharing and autonomous cars. I'm sure with all the data that you guys are possessing, you guys will come up with some new score. By the way, internally, is there a nickname for that behavior prediction score? Do you guys have some kind of moniker at all, or is it just BPS?
It's BPS, but we have a nickname for our little robot head.
And that is?
Fritz.
Fritz.
We needed a German name.
And Fritz speaks retail.
That's right. That's right.
Well, how can people find you, Napo? How can people get in touch with you?
They could email me, napo@automotivemastermind.com.
NAPO@automotivemastermind.com. Marco, how about you?
Same thing, MARCO, Marco@automotivemastermind.com.
And check them out at automotivemastermind.com on their website. I didn't see on there, was the Conquest product on there already, or is it?
We're revealing it live now at the
okay.
at NADA this year, and shortly after you will also see it on the website.
Excellent. Well, great. Thank you guys for being on the podcast. Hopefully,
Dennis,
at another time, we'll get to talk a little bit more about some of your guys' successes.
Thank you. It's been awesome.
Thanks,
Listeners,
Dennis.
thank you guys very much for tuning in to another episode of the Wisco Weekly Podcast. Of course, like, review, and subscribe, and you can also follow on Facebook or Twitter, Wisco Weekly Pod. This is another episode that bringing to you from NADA. Cheers, prost, lachaim, kipish, nastravi, salud to the customer experience.